Okay.
This is Todd Lyden with the Bladen Community College Small Business Center. We're doing our Rural Marketing Roundup, and for the month of December, right after Giving Tuesday last week, or actually Giving Tuesday was last week, we're following up on marketing your local cause. So if you're a nonprofit, this one's for you. We've got Sam Gore, and I'll introduce Sam in just a second, but let me tell you a little bit about the North Carolina Small Business Center Network. We're at all the community colleges throughout the state, and of course we offer one-on-one counseling as well as seminars, webinars, and in a few occasions like this, a recorded conference call with a lot of great material. Like I said, we're at all the community colleges, so if you're catching this after the fact, if you're not in the Bladen County area, hit up your local community college and you'll find a small business center that can help you, whether you're a nonprofit or a small business. Next month we'll be doing another call like this, Rural Marketing Roundup, on your marketing calendar, since it'll be the first of the year in January, on January 10th. We try to do these the second Friday of the month, depending on holidays and things that get in the way sometimes. But we'll be doing a how to market your business throughout the year. Setting up the importance of a marketing calendar. So, and then our guy Sam, he'll be back doing an online nonprofit academy for us at the end of January. So we'll have a series. It's an eight-week series. If you're a nonprofit in particular, it'll be a useful tool for you. Bunch of great topics from 6 to 8 on Tuesday nights starting in at the end of January, and we'll have Sam doing that. Sam has been doing nonprofit stuff in Eastern North Carolina. He has become known as the nonprofit guy because he's been doing webinars, seminars, you name it, for us. How long has it been, Sam?
Probably close to 10 years for you. I've been doing this all together for 19 years.
Wow. So Sam's got a lot of experience under his belt. He's a I guess you're never really a former pastor, is that right? There's no.
Yeah, I pastored churches for 35 years.
There's no such thing as a former pastor, right?
No. You're right. Yeah, in fact, I'm speaking Sunday. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
But you've been doing this nonprofit stuff for a long time. You have one yourself, and you work with a bunch. So I asked you to talk about, in particular in rural areas, with this series, we've been focusing on marketing in rural areas where it's a little bit different for folks who, if you're in a suburban or urban market where you have a lot of different options, the options in a rural area, especially if you're a nonprofit, are just as onerous as they are for small businesses. So we want to talk about, if you're trying to market your local nonprofit in a rural area, what can you be doing? What's some of the things that work for you? And so, Sam, I'll step out of the way here for a while, and I'll even mute myself and let you steal the thunder. And if we have questions, callers, we'll take a break in a second and let them interject whenever you're ready, Sam. But if we don't have questions, we'll just keep moving.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, everybody, for joining in with us today. And we're finding more and more unique ways to be able to get our messages out. And Todd is kind of blazing the trail on that. And I've been following close behind him there and doing this in a changing world. Then it seems like more and more online type things are becoming more prevalent. And as in the cases we're doing today, we're especially doing this because there's a lot of rural areas that doesn't have access to internet, and so for that reason, the phone conference is the better way to go. And so you'll be getting some good material here today. You could take some notes, and then if you have questions about any of these things, you could just give Todd a call. Matter of fact, I'll probably send him a copy of my notes when we finish so that he can have what I'm going from. And if you have any questions, you can contact him or me, and he can direct you on how to get in touch with me. So, as a rural area, and I live in a rural area. I live in a little town called Salemburg, North Carolina, and which is just outside of Clinton, about 24 miles southeast of Fayetteville. And we finally do have internet, and but it was a while there that we didn't, and so we find that it's spreading out more and more. But nevertheless, there's some pretty large gaps out there. So I want to talk with you about how to get the support for your nonprofit in rural areas. Many of you cannot campaign through email campaigns, and some can, some can't. And whether you can or not, this support that I'm going to be talking with you about today will be very helpful anyway. And it's the most especially true in rural areas. I think if I were to title this in some kind of a fashion, besides rural marketing in rural areas, I would call it boots on the ground. And meaning that this is something you can't do behind a computer. You're going to have to get out and as the old saying is, and beat the bushes. And so there's no other way for a nonprofit to be successful. Particularly small nonprofits in rural areas, but in other areas too. If you fail to go out and talk, and specifically to talk with businesses, and this is what I'm going to focus in on today. Is I'm going to be talking about going and visiting different businesses in your area. Small town or large town, there's businesses out there, and I'll mention some of those to you today that would be good possibilities for you to speak with and the types of support that they can offer you. So when you in trying to build a relationship with a corporation, it could take many different forms. And trust me, corporations do want to be involved in community matters. And they do want to be involved with nonprofits in their areas. And so, there's some key differences between the types of sponsorship that you can talk with them about, because many of them may not know exactly how they can help. Most of them just either write you a check or something like that, but there are many other ways for which they can help as well. So as I begin, I hope you'll be able to take this as part of your strategic plan for your organization and develop some goals around what I'm going to be talking with you about. First of all, we want to talk about matching campaigns. Matching campaigns. So when you're having a fundraiser, talking with corporations about matching funds is, certainly a way for which they can do that. And because after all, what this is going to do for them, it's going to increase their visibility, and it's going to increase their brand recognition. And in fact, when they work with you, it's a form of advertising that they can engage in. So when they sponsor your event, they're not only supplying you with funds, and we'll talk about some other things in a moment, but they're actually, it's a form of advertising on their part. And so most all of your organizations do have advertising dollars. And this is a good time of year to tap into that for next year. But that's why you need to have a good plan for what you're going to be doing next year. But they're going to get some increased number of customers, and and when they give in a matching campaign, meaning that if you raise, for every $100 you raise, they give $100, and of course they'll cap that at some point in time, and to up to a certain amount. But nevertheless, your individual donors can double what they are giving if you could find a corporation that would be willing to do what's called a matching campaign. And so this is a very powerful means of support for your nonprofit organization, and in doing that, your strategy, uses the idea of raising a lot of money. For instance, if you wanted to raise, and I say a lot of money, for some organizations they try to raise $500,000, like the Coats for Campaign that you see on television or something of that nature. They try to raise, $500,000 or something of that nature. Whereas in the small areas, in the small nonprofits, you probably were looking at doing a $10,000 or $25,000 campaign, and that way, your local corporations will be more than likely to chime in with you on something like this than they would otherwise. But even in major gift campaigns where you need to raise a lot of money, even several $100,000, they can still do a matching campaign, but then cap it at, let's just say, at $10,000 or something of that nature. You have to excuse me, I've got a little something in my throat. But so that is one of the ways. Keep that in mind. A matching campaign is what they would need to consider doing. And you can Google that up to get more information on that, and of how you can learn more about that. And there are books, and there are what they call e-guides, which is things you can download to help you with that. Another unique way, and this is continuing with the boots on the ground, marketing in a rural area, is called cause marketing. Cause marketing, C-A-U-S-E, marketing. And this has become an increasingly common business strategy. In fact, this type of sponsorship involves a financial contribution in exchange for brand recognition and exposure. And I'm familiar with this, having worked with a nonprofit in Clinton, North Carolina for a while, and which I still consult with them now, is we started doing that, and we saw some very, very positive gains in our income as a result of that. And it's an investment on a corporation's part in sponsoring things, because they will get some very positive gains out of this. Now, whether their goal is to increase their brand exposure, whether it's to improve their brand image, or it may be to increase their social following, or it may be to sell additional products, they enter into a relationship with your nonprofit organization looking to meet a certain goal in exchange for their funding. Now, these contributions are taxable, since your recognition of the branding is considered a form of advertising. So they will understand that, and their accountants will understand that. And but should you be asked by smaller business, then you will need to know that these are, because they're getting something in exchange. And we all should be very familiar with the term quid pro quo these days. And so that's about what it amounts to. But let me share with you the first type of that cause marketing that's successful. First of all, it's called in-kind sponsorship. So instead of financial contributions, some corporations just provide sponsorship for the nonprofit in the form of some physical goods, services, or expertise. Now, not all in-kind donations are tax deductible. For instance, your businesses cannot generally write off the value of a contributed time or services as a gift. But there again, their accountants would know about those things. So one of the things you could do to understand this with IRS is to download Publication 557. Publication 557. You can go to irs.gov, and then in their search box type 557, and it'll bring that up, and then you could print it out, or you can save it to your computer. There's 5 examples I want to give you of in-kind sponsorship. Now, again, we're talking about cause marketing. 5 examples of this. They include, number 1, a staff member's time or services or expertise. The next one will be goods, such as a product. And when we think about those things, let me get back to the staff member's time and services. Many corporations will allow their staff members or their employees to assist you in your fundraising campaigns. In fact, I was in a little area called Regalwood at one time, and it's just a little, they don't even have a stoplight, it's a flashing light. International Paper Mill is there, which is their largest industry there, but everything else is service stations, restaurants, hair salons, and things of that nature, and auto parts houses. But they do have a credit union there for the Regalwood area, and that credit union worked with a nonprofit out of Whiteville, which was a shelter for battered women, and they sponsored a motorcycle ride. And this is the day when I was riding motorcycles. And there was probably 50 or more of us who went, and we each paid $25 entry fee for each one of us. And the credit union provided giveaways, like things that they had, and they sold T-shirts for the motorcycle run, which also had their name on it. And then when they helped to register all the riders, had us to sign a waiver, and they did all that work for this organization. And then once we left Regalwood and we rode to Whiteville to the battered women's shelter, we couldn't go in because of the privacy, but we just went up and met with them, and what we were raising money to do is to help them build a playground for the children that would be there. So we let them know how much we had raised, and they could be expecting a check for that. And then when we got back to Regalwood, to the credit union, the employees had a barbecue lunch ready for us. And they served it, and we ate, and right inside the credit union building, we ate right in there. And then when we were done, they cleaned up the mess, and they took care of everything. And so you will find that some of your businesses in your areas and corporations in your area will help you with volunteers. And then, of course, another way is goods, such as a product. some of these organizations will, for instance, many of you are familiar with Smithfield Foods up there in Tar Heel. We have one here in Clinton, near where I live. And oftentimes they will furnish food. If we having a breakfast, for instance, that we're doing, they furnished us sausage, bacon, and so that we could have, and at no cost to us, that which, that's probably one of the larger expenses of a breakfast is the meat, and they furnished that to us free of charge. And so, but in exchange, they got their name promoted and out there. So you could go to other places like hardware stores or people like that. They could donate a product to you to auction off, for instance, and you could find a lot of them who are willing to do that. All they want is exposure, and you got to promise to be able to give them that. Golf tournaments is another area for which you can sell lots of sponsorship to, and for different corporations and individuals, for that matter, can sponsor holes, a different hole, and then they can give money towards it as well at different levels. It's just a really great way to be able to connect there with them. Another way that some corporations do, and this is it's everywhere, is some places will let you choose as an employee of a corporation a nonprofit organization that you can do a payroll deduction for. And in payroll deduction, meaning they'll just take out so much of your money each week. If it's $5 or whatever it is, of course, multiply that over, 52 weeks, turns into a pretty hefty little piece of change, and it can go to your favorite nonprofit. And so, and some employers or corporations will even match those funds for you. So that is a great way to be able to do that. So, any way that you can get involved in that would be a great way for cause marketing. But here's the key to that, is you got to find like-minded organizations. Yeah, somebody got a question?
Are you taking leave anytime during the holidays?
Sorry, Sam. I went ahead and muted him for the time being. Go ahead.
Oh, I got you. Okay. So you got to find like-minded organizations that can kind of resonate with your target group, and that way, if you find them, and you have to keep searching for those, and once you find them, then you've got a long-lasting relationship with them. And every year when you have your campaigns to try to raise money, they will come in and they will assist you in doing that. But the key is to find like-minded, and you won't never know that until you go and visit and talk with them about that. Now, let me tell you that you also need to consider corporations that are outside of your region that share similar values and missions. And some of those connections will be easier to draw on than others, but don't stop at the obvious. Don't just circle the block. Just don't go around the immediate area or downtown street of the area you live in. Consider going outside of your area as well, because sometimes some of the less obvious connections can be your most viable options if they share similar core values and goals that you do. For instance, perhaps a local gas or electrical company is committed to reducing rates of the homelessness, and they would like to associate their brand with you. And so it could be that you could go to them. I know the electric membership co-ops, they themselves are nonprofits. They have foundations, and anything that will help support the areas that they serve, you can believe they will be more than likely to jump in on your cause there with you. Propane gas companies is another one that could chime in on that and to be able to assist as well. And but if you don't research these types of organizations, the potential connections that you're going to have there, you're going to leave that potential funding on the table. But listen, if you'll take time to find a good fit, you not only make your pitch more attractive to the corporation, in other words, your pitch being who you are, but also to safeguard your organization's reputation. So if you get an ill-fitted match, also could damage your reputation. Let me give you an example. In 2010, the Kentucky Fried Chicken sponsorship of Susan G. Komen organization stirred up a major controversy because it was unclear to many how the two were connected. In fact, the relationship seemed very contradictory. Foods we know that are high in fat, such as fried chicken, are also associated with increasing risk of developing the very disease that Susan G. Komen organization was fighting. And so, man, they had to take that sponsorship down as quickly as they possibly could, and they did. And they just made a major mistake in doing that. And so your long-term health and success of your organization is going to be dependent upon your supporters and their impression of your work and methods. And if they see you getting sponsorship from a corporation that contradicts what you're doing, then that's not going to work well for you at all. So you've got to research, you've got to look, and you've got to look at some of the things that I said a while ago, that's the obvious, and make sure that your research and your networking on that works well in deciding who you're going to work with. And let me say this. I want to interject something that's so important for you right now. It's called storytelling. And what I mean by that is you got to be able to develop, based on the cause that you represent, you've got to be able to develop a compelling story. And the word compelling means to draw in. You got to be able to tell a story that will draw people into you and draw these corporations into you. And if you don't have that, if you're not good at telling a story, then you have lost your major component of fundraising. And so you need to work on that and just to do that. Now, every time you turn on the TV, you'll see St. Jude, you see the Shriners, you'll see the ASPCA, you'll see these people there. And by the way, this is the giving season right now. So you see them really working the airways and promoting. But they're telling a compelling story, and they're demonstrating that. You have got to do the same thing. And, again, failure to do that will just completely erase your major component for fundraising. So work hard in telling that compelling story. Now, what we will call that, and I used the word a while ago, we'll call that your pitch. Because when you pitch, giving a story to a corporation about your organization, you've got to be able to sell them on that and draw them in. Now, many of you have watched Shark Tank, and it comes on, I think, on Friday nights, and they have a bunch of reruns on it now on different channels. But that's exactly what those people do. They come up there and they pitch their business. And if the sharks like their pitch, they're likely to invest in it. But I've heard Mark Cuban as well as others say to those, Barbara Cochran, I've heard them say to those who were seeking funding, that's the worst pitch I've ever heard in my life. And guess what? They walk out of there without any funding. A good product, perhaps, but a bad pitch. And so you've got to be able to pitch your product well. And folks, that's the case with any fundraising, whether you're writing grants, you're doing crowdfunding, whatever it may be, you got to be able to tell a compelling story. So boots on the ground, folks. Research will help you to stay abreast of certain types of corporations and better understand their interest and be able to do that. Now, in searching for these corporations, the next thing is getting the right person at the right time in these corporations. Getting the right person at the right time. The process of securing sponsorship really and truly can span several months. And so the sooner that you can identify the sponsorship decision maker at the corporation, then the sooner you can move the process forward and secure funding for your need. So you need to be able to do that. Now, one of the techniques to reach the decision maker is sort of casting a net and reach out to as many people as possible. And if you find several people in the corporation, you can send out the same email but with slight variation to it, and do it to 6 different people in the company. For instance, if you're dealing with someone very large like Smithfield, then send one to the finance department, send one to the marketing department, send one to the product department, and do that. And what will happen eventually, it's going to land on a decision maker's desk. And, and it may take you 3 to 4 times. It may take you 3 to 4 to 5, 6 months. But, sooner or later, it'll get on that desk, and you'll have someone you can talk with about that, and someone who can buy into what you're doing. And then if they're in charge of spending those advertising dollars, then you can believe that they will do that. Now, I have to tell you that for larger donations, like on major campaigns for your organization, I say if you're doing like somewhere between even $25,000 to $100,000 campaign, it may take up to 6 months to be able to get that. So the key is boots on the ground. You've got to start nurturing those connections as soon as you've planned your campaign goals. And don't lose precious time. Now, let's go with the timing on this. The time of year is also something you need to keep in mind as you're reaching out. Now, let me tell you, a lot of people think this is the worst time of year to go out and to ask for donations because everybody's buying Christmas. Folks, you couldn't be further from the truth. We know, statistically speaking, that 30%, upwards of 30% of all donations come this time of year for nonprofits. 30%. That's a huge hunk. And we also know that 10% of that 30%, in other words, 10% of that comes in the last few days of the year, the last 3-4 days of the year. And so this is the time of year for which you can raise money, and people will give. Now, individuals, they're going to give, but corporations, most especially, are going to give, and you got to be able to tap in on that source there. Now, Todd mentioned a while ago Giving Tuesday. Giving Tuesday has one of the best campaigns that I know of to help nonprofit businesses. And no matter how small you are or how large you are, they have support materials that you can go to their website and download. They even have a calendar of how you can plan out for your Giving Tuesday. Now, Giving Tuesday is the first Tuesday after Black Friday, and it was last week, as Todd said. And this started back probably 10 years ago up in California, and it has spread across this country to where, not millions, but billions of dollars have been raised now. It is just remarkable what this Giving Tuesday campaign has done. We see where it's being advertised on TV, it's advertised on radios, and none of this advertising costs you anything. It's just reminding people to give to their favorite nonprofit. And many of the nonprofits are hosting events to go along with that Giving Tuesday, and it's something that you should consider as well, and particularly in getting sponsorship. For instance, you could host a fall gala, event, or you could host a running a Giving Tuesday campaign and present them with your individuals with or corporations with multiple options for engaging in sponsorship. And then that way they can choose the events or campaigns that aligns with their marketing objectives. You really just can't go in with one size fits all. But there may not exist a correct method to communicate, one specific correct method, I should say, to communicate with corporations. But the standard conversation with them can evolve in what I'm getting ready to share with you right now. This is how your conversation needs to evolve with them. First of all, you got to be able to sustain their attention. You need to create communication materials designed with their goals in mind. Yes, their goals. And show them how their goals align with your goals. Going back to the gas companies and to the electrical companies, those who want to be able to help the homeless or help the, other people who are indigent and poor. And many of our, let's face it, many of our rural areas have some very, people at poverty or below poverty level folks living there. And if their goal is to try to help provide electricity or gas to them to keep them from being cold, or to help them to be able to cook their meals, and most especially keep them from burning their house down, then that's your goal as well. And so that's a matching thing. And then if you could give a thoughtful presentation, again, with that story I was talking about, and then you can get it to the decision maker sooner. And the sooner you can get it to them, the better off you're going to be. So the goal of your pitch, the goal of your story, is to make it look super polished, but with very few words. No one's going to sign any kind off on a large campaign, particularly a matching campaign, simply because, you give them some kind of a story that they don't understand. But if they're going to help you, it's going to be because you got into their office and you sold them something in person. I cannot stress to you the importance of doing this in person. So, once you establish the corporation you're working with priorities, after you've reached out and sent your initial materials, if the corporation's interested, they're going to want to learn more about that opportunity. And so you need to learn how to articulate how you can help them reach their goals, and you first want to be able to, talk with them and be able to understand what they're looking for and, what their goals and objectives are, how can you find that out? And, what can your organization provide that would create a return on this investment for them? What can you, as your nonprofit, provide that could give a good return to the corporation's investment in you? So, beyond their interest, you got to be able to use their name, put up a banner. If you have a website, put their logo on your website and thank them for what you're doing. And these campaigns will talk about goals, how much money you're trying to raise. It will talk about the potential for exposure. If you had a successful sponsorship relationship in the past, this is the time to demonstrate what past involvement with your organization looked like for other corporations. In working with a nonprofit I was speaking of with you earlier in Clinton, North Carolina, and the nonprofit's name is Tim's Gift. And they provide assistance financially, and they provide to people with terminal diseases, and financial assistance and helping them with co-pays, helping them pay the medical bills, the hospital bills, the doctor bills, and also provide medical equipment to them at no cost to them. And so people donate things like wheelchairs and everything up to bandages. Cancer patients, we have wigs that we offer to people free of charge, have a person that's willing to fix it for them. And so, these are just two or three of the things that they offer. And so knowing that's what we go in with, but we go in with, and everybody in just about every organization has been affected with someone in their family, or they've got someone currently in their family with a terminal disease. And so they can resonate with that, you see. Now, if they can get their brand or their product out there, and they can get a banner up, or they can get a logo up on your website showing they support you in this type of work, they will do it. This is exactly what they're looking for. And by the way, sponsorship of one of your events is probably some of the cheapest advertisement they can do. And so they're very willing to be able to spend some dollars because they can get a lot of bang for their buck. Now, how do you go about pursuing a sponsorship personally and doing that? Well, first and foremost, I think it's best if you do that, pursue it as if you're like a job interview, okay? You make an initial contact, maybe have a phone interview. You get to know each other. You get to know your goals. You share your goals, find out their goals, and then, you know, you have your main interview in which you need to prove the value that you can bring to the table that would generate that positive return on their investment. There again, you've got to be able to have that story that is there and show how it will resonate with them. And in doing so, they certainly will be able to buy in on what you're talking about there. Let me give you some other examples of this and just some principles that, in general, that you should remember when it comes to this. Let me pull it up here. Several things here. The first principle is this, and there again, this is something you've got to do personally. If you want money, you got to ask for it. You've got to actually ask for it, and it is rare that these corporations or individuals, for that matter, will just show up at your door and hand you a check. That's just not going to happen. And people are not going to think to give you money unless you make your needs known. For instance, people would ride by Tim's Gift in Clinton, and I've literally had people to come into office there thinking it was a gift shop. And, well, it is a gift shop, but not in the terms of what they were thinking of. And so, of course, we would explain to them what Tim's Gift was and what we did. So don't think that your corporations are going to know who you are just by riding by and seeing your sign. You're going to have to go and talk with them and share with them who you are and what you do, because they're not going to know to give you money. You're going to have to ask for it. And if you don't ask for it, then they'll never know and have any reason to think that you even need money, because they may not even know who you are. Another thing that you need to remember is that, these corporations have a right to say no. And you don't need to boycott them because they say no. Some of them are driven by large corporate entities, and their advertising budgets are already spent, or its arrangements have been made to be spending that money, and some of that is not handled on a local level. And so if you get rejection, don't sweat it, But on the other hand, most all corporations have the ability to be able to choose their advertising. And they're specifically because of the good it brings to that corporation, they have the ability to select local nonprofits that they want to partner with. And so, it's something that, you can't be upset because someone says no. Another issue is, do you really believe in the cause for which you're raising money for? If you really believe in that cause, then you will have the ability to maintain that belief through this process. And this is not a quick process. This is something that you've got to work on it. And it will take you months to secure donations, and it will literally take you years to be able to get a corporation that's going to sponsor you on an annual basis and a very regular basis. But they're going to have to test the waters there with you. And they got to see that you're not just another organization that's coming in asking for a one-time donation. Folks, there are people like, for instance, like McDonald's, and those are franchised, as well as the Bojangles. They're franchised. And Hardee's, all those are franchised. If you can get up with the person who owns the franchise to those and speak directly to them, and you can find that out most of the time, it's posted on a window at these restaurants. It'll give you the name of the franchise, and it'll give you the name and the number for which you can contact them at. And if you can get in with them, and lots of times they're local people, if you can get in with them and start speaking with them, you will be pleasantly surprised at how much they will be willing to give you. For instance, at our annual golf tournament, and there again, we're just a small rural town, our annual golf tournament, McDonald's furnishes all the breakfast biscuits. And, we'll have 75 to 100 people there. And they furnish all the biscuits there for that. And Bojangles usually furnishes all the iced tea that we want. And they give away certificates. For instance, we have our golf tournament in October, and so they'll give away gift certificates to their famous Cajun deep-fried chicken for Thanksgiving. And so, there's all kinds of sponsorship out there that you can get. And some of your local pizza places help with that sponsorship. Your local department stores like Belk, they have on a very regular basis where you can, they'll sign you up to be able to go out and to sell $5 vouchers that can be used in the store on that day. They don't, they can purchase a $5 item, or they can purchase $500 worth of items, but they get $5 off because they give the $5 donation to you. And so these are cause marketing types of things. But do you believe in the cause for which you're raising money? Then if you do that, then you will have the ability to have high hopes for that. And sometimes most often you will be pleased and rarely disappointed, but I call that high hopes with low expectations. And so, and you got to have a faith in the basic goodness of people. And, and these organizations do want to help. Now, is asking for money begging? No. Here's what one author wrote. His name is Hank Rosso. Listen to this. He said, begging is when you ask for something you do not deserve. So we go back to that question. Do you have a deep belief in the reason that you're raising money and for the cause for which you're raising money? Then let me tell you, you're not begging for anything. And what you're doing is you've developed the right to raise money to do that. And but what you've got to do is to figure out how to articulate what you're doing so that the person or the corporation hearing it, if they share your values, they will want to exchange their money for your work. And they'll actually pay you to do the work they cannot do. That's what they're doing with their donations. And so, I would say that there's 4 parts in fundraising, and this is so important for you, and you've got to work to develop this. It's 3 parts planning And the fourth part is to work your plan. You've got to begin with a plan. If you want to raise money from corporations and or individuals, you've got to have a plan. You've got to set a plan in place. And then you've got to be able to go out and work that plan. We know through nonprofits that have reported that 1/3 more money will be raised and almost double your donors if you are, and they will give larger gifts if you plan. So when you're thinking about a plan, you need to kind of outline your entire year ahead of you. And by the way, for 2020, the next year coming up, this is a plan that should have already been in place right now, ready to go forward in January. But nevertheless, if you don't have it, then go ahead and get started. You need to have the whole year planned out ahead of you. You need to map out your goals on that calendar. And what I mean by goals is your fundraising goals. Well, how do we know how to set our fundraising goals? You do that based on your budget. What do you plan to do? Whatever it is you plan to do, then you got a budget because it's going to cost to do that. And the cost of doing that is where you come up with your plan to raise money to do it. And you divide that out into weeks or months or quarters of the year. But you've got to be able to ground truth in your plans. And you got to be able to keep track on that throughout the year so you can know what you can do. Let me give you another very unique way to do this. And Todd, I think we're about to be finishing up here, but let me just give you this.
I was going to say, Sam, we need to give everybody a chance to chime in here. So if you'll finish your thought,
well, let's do that.
Then I'll open the lines here real quick.
Okay, all right. Planning is essential. Now, let me tell you, all of you need to stay in contact with your small business center because we're just doing this over a period of an hour, but you can get far more information at a webinar or a seminar if you attend one or more of these, and I strongly encourage you to do that. Okay, Todd, let's open it up.
Thanks, Sam. Let's open it up here real quick, and if you want to interject, I'm unmuting you. You should probably hear. You're being told you're unmuted. If you want to interject, have questions or thoughts, real quick, Sam. Just to go off of what you mentioned real quick before we get to the hour mark. I wanted to mention a couple of quick things to kind of dovetail with what you were talking about. One of my favorite examples of a nonprofit, if anybody's interested in looking at a good example of telling your story, developing your pitch like you described, and is a very good example to me. Now they're very narrow niche, but if you look up Blind Cat Rescue, and their website is just blindcatrescue.com, I think, or it might be.
Yes.
They're a local nonprofit here in North Carolina that assists specifically blind cats. I'm not going to tell the whole story, but if you look them up, they are phenomenal as an example for a nonprofit that has, over a relatively short amount of time, developed their story, told it in many ways, and has become nationally known for their transparency, for their storytelling, and then for their abilities to do pretty much everything you've described, Sam, in terms of getting with corporations, but also
yes.
And along those lines, one of the things that helps them, I think, are two different things that they work with that would help any local nonprofit as well. Is they're part of greatnonprofits.org, which helps rank, like you were mentioning, both individuals and corporations and even other small businesses that are looking at cause marketing. want to know that who they're giving to is a worthwhile cause, and that's a great way of doing it. It's kind of like a ranking system. I mean, you can obviously go to GuideStar, one of those, but they're another one. And then also one that helps get to what you were talking about earlier with doing a matching with a business or a foundation or a corporation. They use doublethedonation.com, which tracks businesses, large corporations, because even in a rural area, you might work for a corporation that's national and is willing to do that kind of matching program, like you said, and it's worth getting involved and finding out which ones do in your local area so that you can capitalize on that. The last one, I'll shut up and let anybody ask their questions so we can get done at a reasonable time here, is for cause marketing. A great one that I found that has a lot of great material like you're describing, Sam, a lot of good downloads and just constantly updating with great information and examples is selfishgiving.com. It is specifically for cause marketing. I'd highly recommend it because one of the things, and I remember seeing this, they focused on an article just recently talking about how Salvation Army, which everybody's seeing right now because now's the time, they're out at all their local stores and ringing their bells, how folks can't donate, are very rarely carrying cash anymore, right? So they're taking stuff either through text to give, or they even have the buckets where you can slide your card in. So you have to think of different options, and that was on there as well. As I noticed just recently they did a story about that. So just a couple quick ones, just to dovetail off what you were saying. We've got, I know Betty's on, and somebody's online anonymously. If you have questions, we want to answer them real quick, and so we can get you out of here at a reasonable time. We go for that hour, but I know Sam's not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere for a question. Or a great example, too. I'd love to hear if anybody's doing any work where they have a good example. No questions? Okay, well, that's okay, too. Like Sam mentioned, we're doing a nonprofit series here coming up at the end of January, and other small business centers throughout the state offer nonprofit education opportunities, and we're always happy to help out. So if you don't have any questions right now, I'll mute one last time. And
I do have a quick, more so kind of, it can be quick. So you were speaking about how franchises help nonprofit organizations, charities. How do you, or what is your advice to keep us motivated through this time of asking for donations? Because it seems like larger corporations and even franchises and businesses, they want to support nonprofits that are already large and recognized. And how do we basically stay motivated, starting out? Like, I understand we're going to get told no, but when you get told no because they already support, I don't know, someone large, it's like, well, they're already supported, so why are you, what are your suggestions?
Well, you're going to have to keep working them. And there again, remember I said the right person in the right time. You're going to have to, find the gatekeeper, so to speak, and keep working and keep sending emails out, and just go by and visit, and speak with these people in person, and take them materials, and eventually they will come around, and if you're local and they're local, they're going to want to partner with you some way, somehow or another, not just the large ones. And that's the reason I said something about your your franchise. Your McDonald's are franchised, but let me tell you, the local McDonald's is a tremendous place to be able to get support for a nonprofit. They may not always give you money, but what they may do is set up a special night to where you can have everybody that goes eats there that night. They'll give you 10% of the proceeds, and that's something you can ask them about. I know Pizza Inn here in Clinton, they do that, and And so if the nonprofit goes in and busts tables for them and keeps tea and water poured out to the customers, and at the end of the night they get 10% of the sales for that night, and that's giving you exposure. For instance, when I walked in the front door of Lowe's here in Clinton the other day, the first thing I saw was a big banner for Tim's Gift, that the organization I work with I told you about. And when we first started asking Lowe's for donations, they wouldn't even hardly talk to us. But now they are a major contributor to Tim's Gift and even allow us to put our banner in their store, you see. And so you got to stay consistent with these folks. You're going to have to, continually work and befriend them and develop a relationship with them. And once you get that relationship built with them, then you're going to have a sponsorship for life.
Sam, if I can interject, because it kind of goes along with what you're saying, is part of it is also not just the length and developing that relationship, but also it being something that, as you were getting at with the story and the pitch, making sure that the alignment is there and that they can see clearly what the impact would be. I think for a lot of even small foundations and local community foundations, even local United Way wants to see that what they're giving to has results, and then also it aligns with what they're trying to do, and that ultimately, like you said, you just have to kind of pound at it, but also it means making sure, as you suggested too, having everything planned out so that the story is well told across the board, so that everybody who comes in contact with volunteers, the website, everything that coordinates with your name on it, it aligns well, so that the people that you're, whether it's the marketing person who oftentimes becomes the de facto cause person who works with nonprofits, because like you said, it's basically they have to view it as marketing opportunities for them to work with the nonprofit to create that alignment so they can figure out how it works for them. But I think if you have those things in alignment, even the smaller ones, because like you said, you can go to your local Walmart and they have small local committees that can give out not a lot of money, like you said, but once you start breeding some success with one, it can quickly snowball, and especially if you're willing to do stuff in kind, like you were saying, not just taking money, but any other resources they provide, and also encouraging volunteers to just take part as well. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways. One of my favorite parts about, I'm going back to them again, but Blind Cat Rescue focuses on free ways people can help. So, for example, you got that Amazon Smile program. Whenever you shop on Amazon, if you're a legitimate 501c3, you can get your program on there, and when everybody shops, they can, part of the sale gets donated to the nonprofit. Of course, it doesn't cost anybody any time, so they're focusing on making it, easy for people to get involved. So, do those kind of things and really tell that story, and do it in a really, I think, transparent way too. I think that's the other thing, is that people want to feel like they're getting to something that not only has good impact, but is fiscally responsible and so on. Right, Sam?
Yeah, it's just like a local barbershop here. I went to them one year to ask them to sponsor a golf tournament, and they said that, I'm bombarded with nonprofits coming in, and I really don't have any more money to give. And I said, well, how about this? We're doing an auction. Would you be willing to give out a gift certificate for a free haircut? Well, the light beam went off in this guy's head right then. Mm-hmm. And so he gave me 5 cards for a free haircut. And so what does that do? That drives people into his business, perhaps a new customer, you see. And if they like what they get with the haircut, they'll be a repeat customer. So he didn't have to spend any money. It's just a matter of giving somebody a free haircut. So that made it easy for them to give. And so they, again, come up with several different ways that they could participate and give that make it easy on them, and then they will increase as your years move forward.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam. Any other questions? Hopefully we answered that. I thought it was pretty good. It is tough when you're hitting folks up and you have to make that constant ask. But just know that if you can make it easy, like Sam said, that's a really good tip to make. They can't always give money, but if there's something else that they can do at the time, it is about marketing budgets, like you said, Sam. You have to, and when you have that good plan in place, both for soliciting donations, but also for all these other things in place, it's a good system once you get it rolling, and you can be more consistent with it, so that they know, oh yeah, I need to make sure I save some money for your program this year.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
You have to do it on their cycle, on their budget time, not on your.
That's right.
You can't do it.
That's exactly right.
You can't do it when it works well for you. So.
Right.
Well, if there's no other questions, appreciate everybody's time today. We've got the list. This was been recorded. We'll be putting up on YouTube for future reference for anybody who's interested. And appreciate your time today. Thanks for being with us. Thanks again, Sam.
Thank you, Todd. I'll be talking with you later, buddy.
All right.
Mm-hmm.